Very good morning, good afternoon, good evening, or good night, wherever you are located. At the very outset, let me thank Mr. Caudle Green for inviting me for this AI for IA conference. I'm talking on artificial intelligence and accessing indigenous knowledge systems for sustainable development. Why we need to digitize indigenous knowledge is the moot question. Indigenous knowledge or traditional knowledge is time tested, and it's a cultural knowledge which is handed down over generations through a process of education, what we call a kind of socialization. It's a dynamic, holistic, it's local, contextual, and is part of total social and cultural system. Actually, indigenous knowledge is very closely associated with the livelihoods of the people and also the ecology that is around them. And it is completely, enmeshed with the conservation and very frugal utilization of the available resources. In other words, conservation and utilization of resources in a careful manner is an important aspect of this. So sustenance of the rich biodiversity and maintaining the harmony of human-nature relationship is a result of the indigenous knowledge. Today, this knowledge is useful in whichever area you would like to apply, whether it is in the area of development, environment, health, disaster management, or whatever fields that you have for sustainable development. Now, when we talk about sustainable development, there are contradictions of sustainable development that we need to understand. In fact, as we all know popularly, that sustainable development is basically to utilize the existing resources while it meets the needs of the present generations without compromising the ability to meet the needs of the future generations. That means that's an important aspect. But then the contradiction here is transformation of nature is the only way to meet the material and energy requirements of society. Thus, a contradiction arises between economic growth and sustained use of the environment. In other words, it causes this kind of a contradiction causes income inequalities and upsets the well-being of people. And in fact, the larger share of destroying the environment actually comes from the expanding capital and the modern technology, which draws on natural resources through different processes of mining or deforestation, whatever we have. For this, the policies and legal frameworks of the governments also aid. In fact, they go against the principles of sustainable development goals. And because the securing the resources and natural environment is tied with the sustainable development goal, but that is where the problems arise because of contradictions. Sustainable Development Goals 2030 proposes achieving sustainable development without addressing these contradictions. So without addressing the issues of inequality and other things, we cannot achieve sustainable development. In the context of climate change, today we find the knowledge systems and the practices of the indigenous communities are important for finding solutions to attaining sustainable development goals. Since sustainable development continues to follow the same economic laws of development, the challenge is how to break away from such kind of existing mode. So it is clear today that to build sustainable societies, indigenous wisdom is important, and in order to restore the balance. In this regard, artificial intelligence plays an important role. AI and digital technologies have a significant role to play because they can embed the indigenous knowledge into the database of the existing knowledge systems. Today, it is acknowledged that AI-driven software with indigenous knowledge can solve complex problems in the areas of agriculture, health, environment, whatever we have. To do this, it is important to engage indigenous communities in building sustainable societies because their epistemologies are important in digitizing these knowledge systems because they can only provide effective solutions. Apart from that, preservation of indigenous knowledge and languages are important for sustainable development and also to protect world's natural resources. So indigenous epistemologies basically help AI to get embedded into local cultures. Thereby, it becomes part of the local value system. And in fact, it is also pointed out by indigenous protocol that Western rationalist epistemologies which are used in AI, in developing the AI, it has only a limited range of imagination, limited range of frameworks. Therefore, they cannot effectively engage alone with the ontologies created by the AI systems or Western epistemologies. So that's where AI subsets created based on local epistemologies and local language models for their generation to be more effective and usable for their application. And that is where we need to create indigenous AI to protect the identities and cultural ethos of marginal communities. The indigenous data sovereignty movement also further helps in, helping or protecting the rights of indigenous peoples to own, to control, to access and possess data that basically derives from them. And because the knowledge system belongs to them and it has indigenous people's inherent rights of self-determination and governance it's supposed to. So the practice, in practice, it means that indigenous people need to be decision makers on how the data about them is used or deployed, including the within social program algorithms. And in this regard, we need to understand the issues concerning their access. One is with regard to IPRs and data sovereignty. They become important because in digitizing the knowledge systems of and language of the indigenous people. And in this regard, there are questions with regard to the AI technology companies which adopt this and what interest they have if it does not generate them economic gain, or even if it does, how the governments and others, when they regulate, how do they address these issues, and how the data sovereignty of these communities can be protected, including their IPR rights, etc. Whether these tech companies allow the indigenous communities to co-develop and control their knowledge systems or control the database. While we find the dominant culture denigrate these communities, at the same time try to look down upon the knowledge systems of these communities, they try to also utilize these knowledge systems when there is a commercial value. So it is now clear that dominant cultures attempt to benefit out of the indigenous knowledge while denying the IPRs and benefits to the indigenous and marginalized communities. Many activists are fighting on the issues relating to this to protect the IPR issues of the communities. Therefore, in order to overcome this, indigenous communities have to be partners in co-developing and controlling indigenous knowledge, because the issues relating to IPRs and data sovereignty only then can be ensured. To conclude, the knowledge system of indigenous communities are important in finding solutions to the number of local problems, and the localized AI can help in digitizing indigenous knowledge using indigenous epistemologies That is, they can further contribute to finding solutions to problems relating to the environment, agriculture, health, disaster management, etc., which can only help in achieving sustainable development. While doing this, the indigenous communities' rights need to be protected from tech companies, governments, dominant cultures, and others by making them partners and co-developers to protect their property rights and data sovereignty. Only then sustainable, inclusive development will be possible. Thank you.